My daughter said her mom's ex is more of a father figure than I'll ever be. So I let him be her father figure and stopped paying for everything. And now she is desperate to go back like before. Hey Reddit, this is going to be long, but I need to get this off my chest because the whole situation is still unfolding and it's getting crazier by the day. So I've, 40 male, been raising my daughter Adeline, 17 female, by myself since she was 5 years old. She's a junior in high school now. Her mom, Crystal, 39 female, literally just vanished from our lives one random Tuesday in 2012. I came home from work expecting dinner and family time. Instead, I found a note on the kitchen counter saying she needed to follow her heart and had gone back to her high school boyfriend Zane. Just like that, packed her stuff while I was pulling overtime at a job site and disappeared. Left me with a 5-year-old who kept asking when mommy was coming home. That was fun to explain. I work as an electrician for a mid-sized construction company. It's honest work, pays decent, not rich by any means, but comfortable. After Crystal bailed, I made a decision that everything I had was going toward giving Adeline the best life possible. And I mean everything. I'm not gonna lie, it's been tough. My social life basically doesn't exist. Haven't been on a real date in probably 6 years. Point is, this kid has been my entire world. Every decision I make, every dollar I spend, every plan I have for the future revolves around her success and happiness. She's never wanted for anything. Never had to worry about money or wonder if she could do something because we couldn't afford it. So 3 weeks ago, I'm watching TV after work when there's a knock on my door. I look through the peephole and almost don't recognize the woman standing there. It's Crystal. 12 years older, different haircut, but definitely her. I open the door and she's standing there with this fake smile like she's dropping by to borrow a cup of sugar. No apology, no explanation for where she's been, just, "Hi Jonathan, I'm ready to be in Adeline's life now." Ready? Like she's been preparing for some big performance, and now she's finally gotten her act together. I'm standing there in shock while she starts talking about how she's grown as a person and learned what really matters. She wants to start seeing Adeline regularly, wants to build a relationship, wants to be the mother she should have been. Part of me wanted to slam the door in her face. This woman abandoned us when things got real, when being a parent meant actual work and sacrifice. Now she shows up when Adeline's practically grown, past the hard years of tantrums and homework battles and staying up all night with fevers. But I also know what it's like to grow up without a parent. My dad took off when I was 12, and I always wondered what could have been. I didn't want Adeline to have that same regret or curiosity about her mom. So I told Crystal that if Adeline wanted to see her, that was between them. I wouldn't stop it, but I also wasn't going to make it easy. Crystal could earn her way back into our daughter's life. Adeline was confused when I told her. She barely remembered Crystal since she was so young when she left, but she was also curious. What teenage girl wouldn't want to know her mom? Crystal started slow, asking to meet for coffee, wanting to take Adeline shopping, doing all the fun stuff without any of the responsibility. Within a week, Crystal was making demands. Not requests, demands. About when she could see Adeline, where they would go, what time Adeline needed to be home, acting like she had parental rights after over a decade of nothing. The entitlement was incredible. Here I am, the guy who's been doing everything for 12 years, and she rolls in expecting equal say in decisions. But I kept my mouth shut because Adeline seemed happy. She was excited to have her mom back, talking about mother-daughter bonding time and finally understanding where she came from. I figured maybe this could work out. Maybe Crystal had actually grown up and was ready to be a real parent. Maybe Adeline could have both of us in her life. Man, was I wrong about that. Last Wednesday, Crystal shows up at my door again, but this time she's not alone. There's this guy with her, and I immediately know this has to be Zane. Dude pulls up in a 2019 Camaro. Bright red, loud exhaust, the whole look at me package. He's probably mid-30s, wearing a designer polo shirt that probably cost more than I spend on clothes in 6 months. Gold chain around his neck. The works. This is the guy Crystal left us for, and he's exactly what you'd expect. He gets out of the car like he owns the neighborhood, adjusts his shirt, and walks up to my front door like he's been invited. Crystal's hanging on his arm with this smug look, like she's showing off her prize. I open the door and Crystal immediately starts talking about how Adeline needs to meet Zane, how they're a package deal now, how Adeline needs to understand her real family situation. Real family. I've only been the one keeping this kid fed, clothed, educated, and loved for 12 years. But sure, these two are her real family. Zane steps forward and tries to shake my hand, but it's one of those aggressive handshakes where he's squeezing too hard and holding on too long. Guy's trying to establish dominance right off the bat. He looks me up and down, taking in my work clothes and boots, and I can see him making judgments. So you're the guy who's been watching our girl, he says. Not taking care of or raising, but watching. Like I'm some babysitter who's been temporarily filling in. Crystal jumps in explaining that they want Adeline to start spending weekends at their place. Not asking if it's okay, not discussing a gradual introduction, just announcing that this is how it's going to be. She needs to know her family, Crystal says. She needs to see what a real relationship looks like. I'm standing there thinking, what real relationship? This woman abandoned her kid for this guy, and now they're going to show her what family means. But Adeline's behind me in the hallway, and she's looking excited. She wants to see where her mom lives, wants to understand this part of her life that's been missing. So I agree to the weekend thing. What's the worst that could happen, right? That first weekend when I pick Adeline up, she won't stop talking about Zane's place. Apparently they live in this fancy apartment complex across town, the kind with a pool and a gym and a doorman. Zane drives nice cars, wears expensive clothes, takes them out to restaurants I can't afford. Crystal's apparently been telling Adeline all about their lifestyle, how they travel and go to concerts and live this exciting life. Meanwhile, I'm the boring electrician dad who makes her do homework and chores. But what really got to me was when Adeline started repeating stuff Zane had been saying about me. How electricians don't really need much education. How trade work is what people do when they can't handle college. How a real man would have made something more of himself by now. This from a guy who works part-time at Best Buy. I looked him up on social media after that first weekend. His LinkedIn shows he's been bouncing between retail jobs for years, currently working maybe 25 hours a week in the electronics department at Best Buy. But he's got pictures of himself in expensive clothes and nice cars. Either he's got family money or he's living way beyond his means. The second weekend was worse. Adeline came back talking about how Crystal and Zane's relationship was goals, how they understood each other, how they supported each other's dreams, how they didn't try to control each other like other couples. She kept looking at me when she said that last part, like I was somehow controlling for having rules and expectations. Then she started comparing our house to their apartment, how their place had granite countertops and stainless steel appliances, how they had a big screen TV and surround sound, how everything was modern and nice, not old and basic like our place. Old and basic. This house that I've been working to pay for since before she was born. This house where I've given her everything she's ever needed. By the third weekend, the attitude was getting worse. She'd come home from their place acting like I was beneath her, rolling her eyes when I asked about homework, sighing dramatically when I reminded her about chores, making little comments about my truck, my clothes, my job. She started missing her dance classes. First, it was just one, then two. When I asked her about it, she said Crystal thought dance was kinda juvenile for someone her age, that maybe she should focus on more mature interests. What mature interests? I asked. She just shrugged and said she was figuring it out. Her grades started slipping too. This is a kid who's had straight A's since elementary school, who's been on honor roll every semester. Suddenly, she's getting B's and C's, not turning in assignments. When I tried to talk to her about it, she got defensive. Not everyone has to be perfect all the time, she said. Maybe I want to enjoy being a teenager instead of stressing about every little grade. This from the girl who's been planning for Northwestern since middle school. The girl who used to study for hours every night because she wanted to be the best journalist she could be. The breaking point came last Tuesday. I get home from work, tired as hell because I'd been running electrical for a new office building all day. It's our usual grocery shopping day. Every Tuesday for the past few years, we go to the store together. She helps me plan meals for the week. We talk about what's going on in her life. I ask her to grab her shoes so we can head to the store, and she looks at me like I just asked her to clean sewage pipes with her bare hands. Seriously? You can't handle grocery shopping by yourself? Are you really that needy? Needy. For wanting to spend time with my daughter. For trying to maintain the traditions we've had for years. That's when I knew Crystal and Zane had completely poisoned her against me. The kid who used to help me cook dinner every night, who used to tell me about her day while we folded laundry together, who used to actually enjoy spending time with her old man, was now treating me like some pathetic loser who couldn't function without her. What's that supposed to mean? I asked her. And that's when everything exploded. And I mean everything she'd apparently been thinking for weeks just came pouring out. She starts going off about how I don't understand her like Crystal and Zane do. How I'm always trying to control her life instead of supporting her dreams. How I make everything about grades and responsibility instead of letting her be a normal teenager. How Crystal never tries to micromanage every aspect of her life. I'm listening to this thinking, micromanage? I'm the guy who's been funding every dream she's ever had. I'm the one who drives her anywhere she wants to go, buys her anything she needs, works overtime so she can have opportunities I never had. But apparently that's controlling. But then she said the words that I'll never forget. She looks me dead in the eye with this smirk on her face and says, "Look, at this point, you're basically just my stepdad. Zane is more of a father figure than you'll ever be, just her stepdad. After 12 years of being the only parent who showed up for anything, after missing family gatherings and social events and potential relationships because I was busy being a father, after working myself into the ground to pay for her dreams. I'm just her stepdad." But she wasn't done. She keeps going, saying Zane doesn't lecture her about college or make her feel guilty for wanting different things. He actually supports her dreams instead of pushing his own agenda. He treats her like family, not like some project he's trying to perfect. Then comes the real knife twist. She says I'm just the guy who pays for stuff, and that doesn't make me her real dad. That being a father is about understanding and support, not just throwing money at problems. I felt something break inside me when she said that. Not just anger, but something deeper. Like 12 years of my life had just been erased. All those nights staying up when she was sick, all those dance recitals where I was the only parent cheering in the audience, all those parent-teacher conferences where I showed up alone while other kids had both parents. All those sacrifices, all that love, all that time, and I'm just the guy who pays for stuff. So I told her, okay, if I'm just her stepdad and Zane's her real father figure, then she needs to pack her things. She's not staying here anymore. She laughed. Actually laughed like I was telling some hilarious joke. Said I was being dramatic and that I'd get over it like I always do. Like this was just another one of my moods that she had to tolerate. That's when I realized she had no idea how serious I was. She thought she could say whatever she wanted and there'd be no consequences. That she could tear me down and I'd just take it because that's what I'd always done. Put her first, no matter how she treated me. I told her I wasn't joking. She had 2 hours to pack her stuff and figure out where she was going, because she wouldn't be staying in my house anymore. That's when her whole attitude changed. The smirk disappeared and she started backtracking, saying she didn't mean it the way it sounded, that she was just frustrated and said things wrong, that of course I was her dad. She was just trying to explain how she felt about the situation with Crystal and Zane. But it was too late. You can't unsay something like that. You can't call someone just your stepdad and then pretend it was a misunderstanding when there are consequences. Instead of apologizing or showing any real remorse, she got nasty. Started yelling about how I was being ridiculous over one comment. How I was proving her point about being controlling and dramatic. How Crystal was right about me not being able to handle her having other people in her life. She called Crystal while she was packing, putting it on speaker so I could hear. Telling her how unreasonable I was being. How I was kicking her out over nothing. How this proved that Zane was right about my character. Crystal's voice comes through the phone telling Adeline she can stay with them as long as she needs to. That this just shows Adeline belongs with her real family anyway. That they'll take care of her properly, unlike some people who use money to control others. The packing took about an hour. Designer clothes that I bought, laptop that I bought, phone that I pay for every month, all her jewelry and makeup and accessories. Everything she owned came from my work, my sacrifice, my love. But apparently none of that mattered, because I wasn't her real dad. When everything's packed, I stack her suitcases by the front door and wait. I'm not wasting gas on this circus. 10 minutes later, Zane pulls up right in front of my house like he owns the street. He steps out, all swagger and gold chains swinging, tossing me a look like he's doing me some massive favor. He doesn't even bother saying hi, just pops the trunk, then nods at Adeline like she's some celebrity he's picking up for a VIP gig. Crystal's riding shotgun naturally, with that smug grin plastered on her face like she just won front row seats to the drama show. Zane takes his sweet time loading her bags, while Crystal makes loud comments about how Adeline finally belongs with people who really get her. He even pats Adeline's shoulder like he's her knight in shiny chrome wheels. Before he slides back in, he looks me dead in the eye and says they'll take good care of her from now on. I just stand there. No arguments left to burn. I watch Adeline hop into the back seat, head high like she's just reclaimed her freedom. She doesn't even glance back, just stares straight ahead between Crystal and Zane like she's leveled up somehow. When they drive off, blasting some bass-heavy nonsense, I go back inside my empty house. The echo hits different now. Her last words keep bouncing around in my head. Just a stepdad, the guy who pays for stuff. All right then, let's see how long her rescue squad keeps the lights on when the guy who pays for stuff stops paying. Good luck, kid. You're gonna need it. For 12 years, I paid $400 a month for her dance classes so she'd fit in. Covered $18,000 a year for her private school to keep her in that circle. Got her a new Honda for her 16th birthday, still paying $480 a month on that. And I've built up $89,000 in a college fund so she could chase her dream of going to Northwestern for journalism. Every overtime shift and side gig went into making sure she never felt like she only had one parent. So first thing I did was call the school and pull every dollar I was putting toward Adeline's tuition. If she doesn't think I'm her real father, then I'm done paying like one. They told me they'd need new payment arrangements fast, or she'd be out of classes. Not my problem anymore. Next, I canceled her dance academy membership. I told them her new father figure could pick up that bill now. They were shocked. Not my issue. Last, I called her SAT tutor and ended every session. Told him to send the final invoice to the ones who think they can handle being her parents now. I'm done playing ATM for people who don't want me around. While I was making calls, my phone kept buzzing with texts from Crystal. Started Thursday afternoon and didn't stop. What's wrong with you? You can't just abandon your daughter like this. She made one comment and you're destroying her future. This is emotional abuse. We're going to get lawyers involved if you don't start acting like a father. That last one made me laugh. Acting like a father? I've been acting like a father for 12 years. Now I'm acting like what Adeline said I was. Just some guy who was temporarily helping out. Friday morning, I took the Honda in for an appraisal and got offered $22,000, which wasn't bad since I still owed $8,000 on it. I paid off the loan that same day and pocketed the remaining $14,000. If Zane wants to play dad, he can figure out how to get her where she needs to go now. I'm done being her free ride. The car thing is where Crystal really lost it. She called me screaming about how I was being vindictive and petty, how Adeline needed that car for work and school and her social life, how I was punishing an innocent kid for expressing her feelings. I reminded Crystal that Adeline expressed her feelings pretty clearly. I'm not her real father. Real fathers buy cars for their kids. I'm just some guy, so I sold the car I owned and pocketed the money. Crystal threatened to call the police, said what I was doing was theft. I explained that the car was in my name, financed under my credit, insured under my policy. Legally, it was my property to sell. If Adeline wanted a car, her real family could provide one. Saturday was when Adeline finally called me directly. First time I'd heard from her since Wednesday. She was crying, really sobbing, but not the manipulative kind of tears. More like panic tears. She's going on about how St. Catherine's called and said she'd be withdrawn on Monday if tuition wasn't paid, how her dance studio said her classes were canceled, how she had no way to get to her job at the mall without the car. Dad, you're ruining my entire life over one stupid comment, she said. I corrected her. It's Jonathan, and I'm not ruining anything. I'm just not paying for it anymore. Ask Zane to handle it. You know he can't afford all this stuff. That's when it hit me. She knew. She always knew that Crystal and Zane couldn't actually support her lifestyle. The whole time she was talking about what a great father figure he was, she knew he was broke. She was planning to keep me as the financial provider while giving him credit as the emotional support. She wanted the best of both worlds. Zane's fun, relaxed parenting style, plus my bank account funding everything. She thought she could insult me, demote me to just her stepdad, and I'd keep paying for her life while she gave someone else the credit for being her real dad. That's not my problem anymore, I told her. You made your choice about who your real family is. Live with it. Sunday morning, Crystal showed up at my house with Adeline. Both of them looking desperate now, the reality of the situation finally sinking in. Crystal's got these dark circles under her eyes like she hasn't slept, and Adeline looks like she's been crying for days. They want to come inside and talk this through like adults. Crystal keeps saying how we need to put Adeline's needs first, how personal feelings between adults shouldn't affect a child's future. I told them through the door that there's nothing to discuss. Adeline has a real family now, and they can handle her needs. I'm just the guy who used to pay for stuff, and that arrangement is officially over. Crystal starts banging on the door, yelling about how I'm destroying a child's life out of spite, how I'm being vindictive and cruel, how no real father would abandon their daughter like this. That's when Adeline really started sobbing. She's pressed against my front door begging me to just talk to her, to work something out, to not throw away 17 years over one fight. 17 years. Not 12 years since Crystal left. 17 years. Like Crystal was there for those first 5 years when she was actually taking care of her kid. Even now, Adeline can't admit that I'm the one who raised her. I didn't open the door. Instead, I called my neighbor Jim, who's a sheriff's deputy, told him I had people trespassing on my property who wouldn't leave when asked. He came over in his patrol car and explained to Crystal that she needed to leave or she'd be arrested. As they walked away, I could hear Adeline asking Crystal what they were going to do about school and dance and everything else. Crystal just kept saying they'd figure it out. They'd make it work somehow. But I could see it in Crystal's face through my window. She was starting to realize that playing house with Zane was a lot easier when someone else was paying all the bills. Monday came and went exactly like I expected. Adeline got officially withdrawn from St. Catherine's. Tuesday, she had to enroll at Jefferson High, the local public school. Not a bad school by any means, but definitely a step down from the private education she's been getting. I know this because my buddy works maintenance at Jefferson. He texted me Tuesday afternoon saying he saw a girl who looked just like me enrolling in classes, asking if everything was okay with my family. I told him everything was fine, just some changes in living arrangements. Wednesday. I'm at work running electrical for a new medical office when my phone starts blowing up. Not just texts this time, but calls. Crystal called me 11 times between lunch and quitting time. I didn't answer any of them, but she left voicemails getting progressively more desperate. First few messages were the usual guilt trip stuff. How I was being cruel to an innocent child, how Adeline was suffering because of my pride, how I needed to think about her future instead of my hurt feelings. Same broken record I'd been hearing for days. But the later messages were different. Crystal's voice was getting more panicked, more aggressive. She started talking about legal action, about proving I was an unfit parent, about how she could force me to pay child support if she had to. The last voicemail was interesting, though. Crystal sounded like she'd been crying, and she was begging me to just talk to them. Said Zane wanted to work something out, that maybe we could all sit down like adults and figure out a solution that worked for everyone. Translation: they were broke and desperate. The next morning, I found out just how desperate they were. I'm getting ready for work, about to leave the house at 6:30 a.m., when I hear car doors slamming in my driveway. I look out the window and see the red Camaro parked behind my truck, blocking me in. All three of them get out. Crystal looking like she hasn't slept in days, Adeline looking scared and angry at the same time, and Zane looking like he's ready for a confrontation. This is 6:30 in the morning, and they're showing up at my house uninvited. I grab my coffee and open the front door before they can start banging on it. I want to control this situation from the beginning. Y'all need to leave, I tell them. I've got to get to work. Zane steps forward, and I can tell he's trying to intimidate me. Guy's probably got 30 pounds on me and thinks his gold chain makes him tough. He starts talking about how we need to resolve this situation and how there are adult ways to handle disagreements. I'm standing on my front porch in my work clothes with my coffee, and this dude is trying to lecture me about being an adult. This from the guy who works part-time retail and drives a car he probably can't afford. Adeline's hanging back by the car, but she's recording everything on her phone. Smart kid? Probably figures if things go bad, she'll have evidence of something. Too bad for her, I've got my own recording devices. There's nothing to resolve, I tell them. Adeline made her choice about who her real family is. Y'all can handle her expenses now. That's when Crystal really loses it. She starts screaming about how I'm abandoning my responsibilities, how a real father wouldn't punish his child like this, how I'm traumatizing Adeline for life. Zane tries to be the reasonable one, says he understands I'm hurt, but we're talking about a kid's future here. Maybe we can work out some kind of arrangement where I help with school costs, and he handles the day-to-day parenting stuff. I almost laughed at that. He wants me to keep funding everything while he gets to be the fun dad who doesn't have to worry about bills or responsibilities. Nah, I tell him. You wanted to be her father figure, so figure it out. That's when things went sideways. Zane's face changed, and he stepped up onto my porch, getting right in my face. Started talking about how I was being unreasonable, how this was about more than just money, how maybe I needed someone to explain reality to me. I told him to get off my property. Instead, he shoved me backwards toward my front door, hard enough that I had to catch myself against the door frame. We're gonna settle this right now, he said. You're gonna start taking care of your responsibilities, or we're gonna have a problem. Now I'm thinking, this dude just assaulted me on my own property while making threats. But I also know I've got security cameras covering my front porch, driveway, and living room. Everything that's happening is being recorded in high definition. So instead of fighting back, I try to get inside my house where I can call the cops. But Zane follows me, pushing his way through my front door like he owns the place. We're not done talking, he says, and shoves me again, harder this time. I stumble backwards into my living room, almost falling over my coffee table. Crystal's right behind him, screaming at me to just agree to keep paying for Adeline's expenses. She's not trying to stop Zane, she's encouraging him, telling him that I need to understand how serious this situation is. Meanwhile, Adeline's standing in my doorway with her phone out, still recording. Not telling Zane to stop, not trying to protect me, just documenting whatever's about to happen. Zane starts pushing me around my own living room, shoving me into furniture, knocking stuff over. He's yelling about how I'm a deadbeat father, how I don't deserve to have a daughter, how real men take care of their responsibilities no matter what. I'm trying to get to my phone to call 911, but this guy's bigger than me and he's not letting up. He shoves me so hard I go down, hitting my shoulder against the corner of my entertainment center. That's gonna leave a bruise. Crystal's still screaming at me to just agree to pay for everything. Like getting beat up in my own house is supposed to convince me to hand over money to people who think I'm worthless. But the moment that really got to me was when Zane finally backed off, breathing hard, standing over me while I'm on the floor. Adeline looks right at me and says, "That's what you get for being so dramatic." My own daughter, watching some guy assault me in my own house and telling me I deserved it. That's when I knew there was no coming back from this. This wasn't about hurt feelings or teenage rebellion anymore. This was about who these people really were when they didn't get their way. They left after Zane threatened to come back and finish this conversation if I didn't start acting like a real father. Crystal was still crying and making demands about money. Adeline was still recording everything, probably planning to post it somewhere to make me look bad. But here's what they didn't know. I've had security cameras in my house since last year after some break-ins in the neighborhood. Professional system with cloud backup, motion sensors, the works. Everything that just happened was recorded from multiple angles in high definition. Time to see how tough Zane feels when the police get involved. Friday morning, I drove straight to the police station with everything on a flash drive. Detective took my statement and watched the footage. His reaction was exactly what you'd expect. Shock that a daughter would stand there recording, while some guy assaulted her father in his own home. They arrested Zane at the Best Buy where he works. Apparently made quite a scene, customers recording with their phones while he got handcuffed in the electronics section. His manager wasn't too happy about that kind of publicity. Crystal got charged as an accessory, since she was encouraging him and making demands while he was attacking me. They picked her up at the DoorDash pickup spot Friday evening. The bail hearing was Monday. Turns out Zane's got prior assault charges from 3 years ago, so this wasn't his first time beating someone up when he didn't get his way. Judge set bail at $50,000, which neither of them could afford. Crystal's been calling her sister Gabriella nonstop trying to get money together. Meanwhile, I'm getting text messages from Adeline that are absolutely unbelievable. She's calling me a snitch for getting Zane arrested. Says I'm ruining their lives over nothing. That I'm proving how vindictive and petty I really am. Not one word of apology. Not one acknowledgement that maybe watching your father get assaulted isn't normal behavior. Just anger that there are consequences for their actions. Tuesday, I met with my lawyer about updating my will. I've had the same will since Adeline was 8 years old, back when I thought she'd grow up to be a decent human being. Everything was set to go to her. The house, my retirement accounts, life insurance payout, the college fund, all of it. Robert asked if I was sure about making changes, said sometimes family disputes work themselves out over time. I showed him the security footage of his own daughter, telling me I deserved to get beat up by some guy who'd known her for 3 weeks. Jesus Christ, he said after watching it. That's really your kid? We spent 2 hours rewriting everything. St. Jude's Children's Hospital is now getting the house and half my retirement money. The other half is going to a scholarship fund for kids whose parents actually died or abandoned them. Real orphans who'd appreciate help, not spoiled brats who think they're entitled to everything. The college fund is getting donated to Jefferson High School's college prep program. $89,000 that'll help dozens of kids who actually want education, instead of one kid who thinks she's too good for public school. My life insurance beneficiary is now my brother Carlos. He's got 3 kids of his own and could use the help. At least I know his kids respect him and wouldn't stand there recording while he got beat up. Wednesday morning, Adeline showed up at my work. Security called me up front because there was a young woman demanding to see me, causing a scene in the lobby. She'd apparently taken the bus since she doesn't have a car anymore. She looked terrible. Hair unwashed, clothes wrinkled, dark circles under her eyes. Living with Crystal and Zane apparently isn't as glamorous as she thought it would be. "Dad, please," she said when I came to the lobby. "This has gone too far. You got Zane arrested, Crystal can't afford bail, and I'm stuck in that tiny apartment with no car and no way to get around." I corrected her. "I didn't get anyone arrested. Zane got himself arrested by committing felonies." She started crying again, but these weren't the manipulative tears from before. These were desperate tears. The reality of her situation was finally hitting her. "I can't live like this," she said. "Their apartment is disgusting. There's no food, Crystal's crying all the time, and I have to take 3 buses to get to school. Welcome to the real world, kid. This is what happens when you choose people who can't actually take care of you." "I'm sorry I said those things," she continued. I was angry and confused, and I didn't mean any of it. You know you're my real dad. You've always been my real dad. Too little, too late. She had her chance to apologize before things got physical. Instead, she doubled down and watched me get assaulted while telling me I deserved it. If I'm your real dad, then why didn't you stop Zane from attacking me? I asked her. She couldn't answer that. Just stood there crying while other people in the lobby stared at us. Why did you record it instead of calling for help? Still no answer. Why did you tell me I deserved to get beat up in my own house? That's when she finally broke down completely. Started sobbing about how she was scared and confused and didn't know what to do. How Crystal and Zane had been filling her head with lies about me. How she realized too late that they couldn't actually take care of her. But I was done feeling sorry for her. Some mistakes you can come back from. Watching your father get assaulted and saying he deserved it isn't one of them. You made your choice, I told her. Live with it. I walked away while she was still crying in the lobby. Security escorted her out when she tried to follow me. Thursday, I got a call from the detective. Zane took a plea deal, 18 months in county jail plus 3 years probation. Crystal got 6 months probation and community service. Neither of them will be bothering me again anytime soon. Friday, I changed my phone number. Blocked Adeline on all social media. Had my locks changed just in case Crystal made copies of keys back when she lived here. Actions have consequences. Some lessons cost $89,000. Some cost everything. Hope it was worth it.